Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We'll be getting started in just a couple minutes. While you're waiting, if you'd like to participate in our iClicker polling questions today, we have put the course information up on the screen for you. We've also put the course link in your chat or questions panel of GoToWebinar. You can use your instructor email and a password to log in or create an account if you don't have one yet. And that's for iClicker. You can also participate with your mobile device using the iClicker Student iOS or Android app. In that case, you'll just want to look for Macmillan Learning as the institution, and the course is iClicker and Achieve Math Stats. Welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for our webinar, iClicker and Achieve Active Learning in the Math Stats Classroom. Just a few announcements before we start our presentation. Once again, if you're just joining us now, we have put our iClicker course information on the screen and in the questions panel of GoToWebinar. If you already have an instructor account with iClicker, you can use your instructor email and password to log in to our student app to respond to our polling questions today. You can also participate with your mobile device using the iClicker student app. You'll just want to look for Macmillan Learning as the institution and iClicker and Achieve Math Stats as the course. We have also muted everyone to keep out background noise, but we do still want to hear from you. If you'd like to ask a question or give us any feedback, feel free to type it into the questions panel on your screen. We will be monitoring the questions as they come in, but we'll also be saving some for a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. And if we don't get to your question in the webinar, we'll be sure to follow up with you by email. Finally, we are recording this webinar and we'll email you a link to the recording and the slide deck within the next few days. That's it for housekeeping. So with that, my name is Lindsay Thomas and I am the Training and Documentation Manager for iClicker. I am very excited to introduce today's presenters, Natalie Dougal, who is our iClicker Training Specialist and Faculty Advocate, and Carrie Crosby, who is our Senior Learning Solutions Specialist for Math and Stats. Natalie is going to kick it off for us, so over to you, Natalie. Natalie, I think you're muted.
Man, I am really good at that. It wouldn't be an online presentation if someone didn't forget to unmute or mute themselves. So Thank you, Lindsay. It's always fun when we get together to do these sorts of things. And I really am excited to meet with this audience specifically because you're using two of our most interesting products here at Macmillan together to make some really great dynamic learning opportunities for your students. So here's what we're going to go over today. We're going to do a quick introduction of what exactly iClicker is and what exactly Achieve is, simply because a lot of you are more familiar with one over the other, and we want to make sure to level set for everyone. And then I get to have the fun of doing an overview of iClicker and a little bit of a demo of how it works, just in case you are new to it. And then my colleague Carrie is going to come and she's going to give you an overview of Achieve, and she's going to demonstrate how it can work for your students as well. So you're really going to get a nice end-to-end view of how these really cool products work together. And then lastly, we're going to end with a question and answer section. So just like Lindsay said, please take any question you have at the moment and throw it into the chat. I always listen better when I'm not also trying to hold on to a question at the same time. And Q&A tends to be some of our favorite time during these webinars. So we really encourage your questions. Okay, so let's quickly just talk about Achieve and iClicker and how they work together. Achieve is this really great, easy, and simple way for you as an instructor to design your own course and deliver it to your students in a way that doesn't take a lot of heavy lifting from anyone. You and your students are covered before, during, and after class. So this isn't just a textbook replacement. This isn't just some lecture slides. This really is an all-encompassing solution. You're also given out of the box, ready to assign formative and summative assessments for your students so you can really know where they are and how you can best reach them. And a dynamic ebook is often available within the Achieve system. So again, everything comes together. You're able to manage your course, you're able to assign homework, you're able to assign work that students do before class to get them ready for your lecture. And they also have these ebooks that they can interact with. And lastly, almost all of our Achieve courses include iClicker as well. So iClicker is this really easy and simple way to make your classes responsive and interactive, and them so that your students can interact live with your course materials. Instructors ask students questions and students in real time. And so it creates this interesting, playful, high energy part of your class. iClicker is great because it works with whatever presentation tools you're already using. Today, I'm using Google Slides. If you're using PowerPoint, that works great too. I'm really excited for Carrie to show you how iClicker can also work with the Achieve items that are already ready to go. You don't have to have any more software or anything like that. And iClicker activities and question decks are also included within Achieve. So a lot of times people see iClicker, they think it looks really fun, interesting, and exciting. But when they think of having to develop this entire new tool for their classroom, they might get a little bit overwhelmed. With Achieve, you're able to bring in iClicker activities that have been conceived by our team of educators, and they work really, really well in your classroom. They're not going to constitute a huge extra lift of time, not when you're running the activities in class or when you're thinking about prep for your class. So it really makes it easy and fun to include. So I want to know about this group and who we have here. So some of you are more familiar with Achieve, some of you with iClicker, and I really want to take the pulse of the class. So I have my iClicker toolbar already here, ready to go. I fired it up before anybody even joined the webinar. I'm going to click on this poll here to open up my polling toolbar. I make sure I've selected the right question type from the drop-down menu, and then I hit the play button. And what that does is it takes a capture of my desktop and it sends it to my audience. So if you look at your device, you should see this capture of my desktop. And yes, that includes my little go to webinar toolbar over here. And then I can see how much time has passed on the poll and how many responses that I have. Looks like I don't have any responses yet. Which is a little unusual. Okay, there we go. All right, so I've got a few. Maybe people were waiting to join the session, jumping into another thing. I'm going to wait until 1 minute. And if you miss this question, please don't panic. I'm going to ask more questions. This is what your students will feel the first time that they come to an iClicker class and you ask a question, they go, oh, I didn't set up my iClicker account before I came to class. I'm going to click on results so I can see. And it looks like we have 2 people who've used Achieve, 1 person who's only used iClicker, and 1 person who's used them together. So we've got familiarity all over the board. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to touch on each answer I want to mark as correct. I want to give everybody a little extra point here, so I'm just going to go ahead and touch them green to turn them correct. And then I'm going to hide my results right there. So it's a really easy, fun, fast way to learn more about your students and tailor whatever it is you're doing to that audience. So how does iClicker work in your classroom? It's pretty straightforward. First, you're going to get students to class with iClicker attendance. You'll notice that when you join my iClicker class, it had a join class button. When students click that join class button, it creates an attendance record for you to refer to, but also for your students to refer to. They get this really cool little calendar. You can also set attendance to auto run. So if you're not sure you're going to ask iClicker polling questions in every single class, but you want that attendance data, you can set it up to auto run and take attendance in your class every day. You also have the opportunity to make your passive classes into active classes with iClicker polling questions. And asking polling questions is obviously fun and interesting, but it has some very real pedagogical benefits. For one, you're able to reset your students' attention and to draw their attention back into the material that you're presenting when they might be distracted just by thoughts in their heads or their smartphone or whatever it is that's going on in class. You can grab their attention and bring it back to the lecture. You're also able to give every single student in your class a voice and a way to participate in class. A lot of students really like it when classes are energetic and full of participation, but it tends to favor the brave. With iClicker, you're able to let every single one of your students have the chance to participate in your classes. You're also able to create really tight feedback loops with your students, and this is really important. If you have a paper test on Friday and you grade it over the weekend and you pass it back to your students on Monday, you know what they look at when they get that quiz back. They look at the grade on the top of the quiz, and that's really what determines whether they're satisfied with what they did. When you're able to ask a student a question on Friday and let them know whether they have the correct answer within 30 seconds, they're focused on that question. They're not focused on overall where their score is. And so when you're able to create those tight feedback loops, students are able to have more dynamic learning experiences. And then lastly, students really love iClicker because for every question that you ask them, you automatically create a flashcard pack or practice test that they can interact with through iClicker study tools. So we really love iClicker as a tool for instructors, but we're always thinking about students and how we want them to have a super positive experience using iClicker, and it becomes this tool for self-management and motivation. So how can you activate iClicker within your Achieve course? It's really, really easy. Number one, the first thing that you're going to need to do is you're going to need to write questions in your preferred presentation tool, whatever that is, or you just download them from Achieve. And again, Carrie's going to show you how that works. The second thing that you do is you create your iClicker course in Achieve. It's really easy. You just go to the gradebook. There's a button that says iClicker in the upper right-hand corner. You click on it and just follow the prompts. It's very fast. And then lastly, you just get comfortable using iClicker Cloud. This is something that we would love to help with. It's super easy to sign up to meet with a trainer. You can go to iClicker.com, and if you look in the bottom left corner, there's going to be a button that says demos and trainings. You just click on that and you can sign up for a time to meet with somebody like me who can show you the ins and outs of iClicker Cloud. So I'm going to do another poll, and I really want you to pay attention. If you missed that first polling question, are you feeling anxious to answer a polling question now? If you got into that last polling question, are you anxious for me to ask another one? This is how your students are going to feel. They really look forward to these polling questions. So again, I just make sure that I have the right question type here, and then I hit that play button to take a capture of my desktop. I get a little preview here, and to send it to my responders. So you'll see how the responses are coming in a little bit faster because I already asked a polling question earlier. I had 4 people the last time that I asked my question. You can see I already have more people who've joined my session. Now I have 6. And I'm going to let this go until we're 30 seconds in, and then I'm going to stop it. Multiple choice questions tend to take about 30 seconds to ask. It's really great. You can take a sip of your coffee while it happens. I'm going to click on my results so I can see how things are spread out. All right, so it looks like we have 2 people who get to teach in person, 2 who are hybrid, 1 who is teaching synchronously online, and 1 who isn't teaching this term. Maybe we've got an administrator on the line. So again, to mark my answers correct, I can just go ahead and touch on them to turn them green. If I want to ungrade it, I can do that. I can also just leave a question ungraded. I don't have to grade it. But again, I like to give my audience points. So I'm just going to go ahead and touch those. Okay. So it looks like we've got a lot of people who have the chance to have live interactions with their students, which is really, really great. And one of the things that iClicker polling is especially designed for. So here's an example of a different type of iClicker question that you can ask students. This is a target question. So here I'm asking, and I'm going to make my menu nice and small so you can all see my question easily. I'm going to ask you to select the level of Bloom's taxonomy that represents separating a concept into its parts and learning how they relate to one another. Okay, so this is a concept that most instructors are really familiar with. And with a target question, it's a really unique way to respond. So I'm going to expand my toolbar. I'm going to click on poll. And then I'm going to select target from the drop-down menu. All right, now I'm going to hit the play button. And that's going to take this desktop capture and send it to my audience. So what you should see is a capture of your screen, and all that you need to do is touch on the image where you feel the correct answer is, and then click send to send in your response. And you can move it around until you're satisfied with where it is. I can see I have 2 responses right now, 3. I'm going to wait till I get my 6 responses. This is just a fabulous way for students to interact with questions in a different way. Yeah, I'm looking for my 2 more people. Remember, once you've touched the image, to press send as well to get your response to come in. There we go. All right, I'm going to wait until we're at the 1 minute mark to close it out. All right. Okay, and then for you as the instructor, this is how you grade a target question. I'm going to click my results. You can see I've kind of got them clustered in the same area. I'm going to click on the image to grade it and make it a little bit larger so I can really see where things went. All right, so separating a concept into its part and learning how they relate to one another, that is analyze. So I'm going to draw a square around the correct answer and then click save. And now everything that's in that analyze area will be marked as correct, and everything outside of it will be marked as incorrect. And you can see I even get a little count up here so I can see the results for my students. So this is just one of the question types that our instructors have found really, really helpful and interesting in their classrooms. There's a lot of different uses for it. Here's an example of a short answer question. I've thrown around the phrase active learning a bit, and it's always great to level set and make sure that we're all talking about the same thing. So I'm going to make sure that this is set to short answer, and I'm going to hit the play button. And students get the question on their device, and then they have a field where they can respond with up to 140 characters, like a tweet. And these take a little bit longer than multiple choice, so we want to think about that when we're building our lesson plans. I've got 3 responses for and I'm waiting on my 6th participant. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop it. All right, let's see what everyone had to say. I can see engagement defines active learning, active participation rather than passive absorption. Participation, engagement, students participate in tasks and activities during class. So this is really great, and I'm going to give every single one of these a correct mark. You'll see I have this blue star here. This blue star marks the best answer, and this is the answer that students will have marked to study in study tools. If I didn't get one best answer, I can also enter one down here in the other field. I can display my answers this way as just a list, but I can also display them as a word cloud, which can be really great when you've got a discussion going on and you're just trying to kick things off. So I'm going to hide my results, and I'm just going to go a little bit more into what separates active from passive learning. You all seem like you have good familiarity with it. So when we think about passive learning, we think of that old model of teaching where instructors present information to an audience. And there's definitely a place for that kind of instruction, but we also understand that the idea that a student is simply a sponge that's going to absorb a ton of information simply by being presented with it is not one that's necessarily borne out by what we know actually teaches students. Students sit, they listen, and they take notes, which is a really important part of the learning process, but again, doesn't make for active learning. And class is really a one-way conversation from the instructor to the students. Whereas when we look at active learning, instructors involve students in the lesson. So I really loved a lot of those answers that we had on that last question, and they really did focus on the fact that students must be involved in the lesson for it to be active learning. Students learn by doing, and this could be experimentation, could be answering questions, discussion, all kinds of different things that students actively take part in. And lastly, class is a two-way conversation between the instructor and the students. And that's what can be a little bit tricky about active learning. A lot of times, not only do students have to adjust based on what the instructor is saying to them, but instructors have to adjust as well. And that's something that's really nice about iClicker, because you don't preload it with questions and answers. It works along with you, and it gives you a lot of freedom to adjust your teaching style based on that conversation. So here are some other pedagogical iClicker activities that you might consider doing if you're thinking about bringing it into your math stats classroom. And these are things that are a little bit agnostic of your subject, but still have a lot of value in your classroom. So ice-breaking activities are really great, really important in classrooms, especially when we expect students to work together. Something that's really great about using iClicker for ice-breaking is you as the instructor also get a record. So I asked a few simple questions during this webinar to get to know you all, so I kind of tailor what I was talking about to this specific audience. This becomes even more powerful, obviously, when it's something that you can devote a lot of time and attention to at the beginning of your classes. You can also try entrance and exit tickets. This is a really nice habitual thing you can do with iClicker, where you're asking students questions like, what do you remember most from our last class period? Or what part of the homework gave you the most trouble? And if you consistently start your questions and you start your class sessions with these types of questions, students start to anticipate them as they're walking to class, and it really clicks them into that learning mindset before you've even even started up your presentation software. So again, what do you remember most from our last class? This is a great, simple, reusable question that you can ask that asks students to reach into their memory and back to that last class period. And it really sets the brain up for learning. It's also really great for think, pair, share activities. So when you ask a question of your students, you give them a problem that you set up for them. Instead of instantly telling them what the correct answer is, you say, hey, talk to the person next to you and try and come to an agreement about what you think the correct answer is, and then ask the polling question again. Again, these activities are really great because they don't require a ton more work from you as the instructor, but they really make your classes more dynamic. It's also really great for virtual hand raising. I know that some of you said you were hybrid or that you were teaching online synchronously. Sometimes the chat becomes really overwhelming in a classroom, and you look for more of an official way to have students communicate with you. iClicker can be great for that, where you can say, hey, if you have an official question, I'm going to open up an iClicker short answer. I'm going to look at the results as they come in real time. Use that to raise your hand. And that makes it so students can have a direct line to you, but it also makes it so that one student doesn't overwhelm you with questions. And then lastly, a really great way to use iClicker is to do confidence checks with your students. I have a really terrible habit of asking, did everybody get that? Everybody understand that? And only the most confident person in the world is going to raise their hand and say, no, I didn't understand that, and I'm totally lost. Instead, if we ask those same confidence questions using iClicker and using the anonymous mode that we have, it really gives students the room to say, hey, I'm really, really lost. Or they can say, hey, I've got this concept. We've all got this concept. Let's move on. So it's a really dynamic tool, again, that helps you change your lesson plans to meet your students' needs where they are. So now I'm going to hand things over to Carrie. Carrie is our Achieve expert, and she also is a math and stats expert. So Carrie, are you ready to go?
I'm ready.
All right, cool. I'm going to mute myself and you go ahead, and I'm going to let you take it over. All right.
Great. Thanks, Natalie. Hi, everyone. Again, I'm Carrie. I'm the Learning Solution Specialist for Math and Statistics. So as you heard earlier, Achieve is an easy way to deliver engaging and interactive course content to your students. We have a flexible and customizable pre-built course template for each title and product that we offer. Those templates include a variety of formative and summative assessments that you can use before, during, and after class. So what you're looking at here is an Achieve course that aligns to one of our best-selling intro stats titles. It's called The Basic Practice of Statistics. You may be familiar with it. We also support a variety of other stats titles and math courses such as quantitative literacy, pre-calculus, and calculus. So I've just gone through and I've kind of assigned a few items that you might assign in your course. On the left-hand side, we have our main navigation menu here. So we're currently looking at the course homepage. The resources library has additional student and instructor content that can be added to your course. We have our gradebook and reports, so you can dig into student performance data. Most of our math and stats courses do include an interactive ebook, so it really is a full course solution. And of course, you have your people section to manage your student roster. So coming back and looking at the course content or the home page, there are a couple of different viewing options. So students can easily see their to-do list of assignments, or we can navigate to the course content view, which is what I kind of like to refer to as the big picture. And this is where you see that, that template chapter organization. Okay. And with that pre-built course template, there's a variety of different content items that align to the textbook, again, that can be assigned as pre, in, or post-class activities. So I'm going to click on chapter 2. The templates are completely customizable, allowing you to add and remove content. So when I click that checkbox, I get an action menu up at the top of the screen. I can reorganize items, modify assessments, create my own content. So it really is customizable and flexible. Okay. And the specific content is going to vary title by title, but this example includes a shortcut link to the ebook, Again, we have that main ebook link on the left-hand navigation menu. Learning Curve is our adaptive quizzing activity. This works really well as a pre-class assignment to help students get familiar with key terms and key concepts. We have a statistical applet activity and an instructor activity guide that can be used in class. A homework assignment to assess students' understanding after class, and then some additional student resources and activities. So if you look over to the right-hand side, where the little calendar icon is, you can see that I've assigned the ebook reading, the learning curve activity, and the homework assessment. The other two items remain hidden from student view. Okay, so again, this is just how you can kind of customize, pick and choose what content you want to make available to students and which items you want to keep hidden from them. So the applet activity is the first activity we're going to kind of go through. And obviously this is something that you can definitely assign to your students to have them complete on their own. But for today, I'm going to show you an alternate way that you could use this activity in class and incorporate iClicker. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the title to open it up. This is a very simple activity, but using iClicker doesn't have to be complicated, and it's a great way to keep students engaged and assess their understanding, as Natalie was explaining. So this first view that we see here is actually the instructor view of the assessment editor. That's where you can modify the activity. But for now, we're going to go ahead into the student preview. And I'm going to launch that preview. We've partnered with Desmos, which is the engine behind these statistical applets, as well as our dynamic figures in our math courses. So Quantlit, again, pre-calc, calculus, all have these interactive dynamic figures that are powered by Desmos. So this applet activity has 3 parts. So I'm actually going to show you 3 different iClicker questions, similar to the question types that Natalie showed earlier. So for this first question, the instructions are presented here to students if they were completing it on their own. I'm going to follow those instructions as if I were demonstrating this in class, and I'm going to move 2 points onto the number line here. So if the student were completing this themselves, they would use the drop-down menu to select their answer and then go ahead and submit that by clicking check answer. For today, I'm going to use my iClicker multiple choice question type, and I'm going to ask you all to tell me what you think. So I am going to go up to my polling. I'm going to check, make sure to check that multiple choice is selected, and I'll start the poll. So assuming that A is never, B is sometimes, and C is always, go ahead and tap your answer to tell me that with 2 values on the number line, the mean and median are never the same, sometimes the same, or always the same. And again, iClicker has captured that screenshot, so it will act as a study guide later. So I'll wait till I get a couple, looks like we were at 5, we had 6 before, so I'll go to 30 seconds and then stop that poll. All right, so I can display the answer here. In class, I could have a discussion about this, ask students to share their thoughts, do that think, pair, share type of activity, and then go ahead and reveal the correct answer, which in this case, the answer is always. So I can tap to score that and then minimize my results. And again, if a student were completing this on their own, they would check their answer, and then they'll be able to move on to the next question. And you'll notice that that's actually scored immediately on the left-hand side. This is how our assessment engine works with all types of assessments, not just the applet activities, so students can monitor their progress. So we're going to move on to the next question here. And in this case, again, I have my instructions. I'm asked to put 5 points on the number line, less than 5, and make sure that the mean and median remain equal. So let me go ahead and drag these guys over. It'll just take a second to get them to where they need to be. And I should have mentioned with the other question, I also could have asked the students to answer before putting my points on the number line. That's just another way to kind of gauge your students' understanding and what they're coming into the class with. Okay, so in this case, again, this is another passage completion question. but I'm going to actually use the short answer question type. So I've put 5 points on the number line, and what I want to find out here is, what my students think is going to happen if I add a 6th point on the far right, so adding an outlier. So I'm going to switch my drop-down menu to short answer, and I'll go ahead and start that poll. So what you can do is, using your keypad, you can just use the less than, equal to, or greater than symbol to tell me what you think will happen when we add that outlier, and how this will, so the question here, if it's kind of tiny, so if you can't see it, it says this has the effect of making the mean less than, equal to, or greater than the median. So you can use those symbols on your keypad. And we'll just give that a couple more seconds. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the poll there. We'll reveal the results. So it looks like we've got a less than, 3 greater than, and an equal to. So before I reveal the correct answer, let's go ahead and put that outlier on my number line, and then we can visually see what happens here. And the answer is indeed greater than. Again, this is a pretty simple example, but I want to use this just to kind of give you an idea of how you can use iClicker with a variety of different types of activities within Achieve. So this final question here is a really good example of how Achieve helps to reinforce conceptual understanding. And so in math and stats, we don't just want students to be able to do calculations and computations, but we also want them to be able to draw conclusions and make interpretations. And throughout the question bank, you're going to find a variety of different question types, multi-module questions, multi-part questions that focus on both computational and conceptual understanding. So here we want to know, did adding this additional point affect the mean or median the most? And while this is displayed as a multiple choice question in the activity, we're going to get a little creative, and we're actually going to use the iClicker target question. So I will go ahead and select target and start that poll. Again, the image is captured and set to your device, so you can pinch and zoom if you need to enlarge the activity or enlarge the image on your device. But to answer that target question, you'll just click or tap anywhere on what you think the correct answer is. So the first one is the mean is less affected because the median is more resistant. The second one is the mean is more effective because the median is more resistant. The third one is the median is more affected because the mean is more resistant. And then finally, we have the median is less affected because the mean is more resistant. So we'll give that a couple of seconds. Again, these target questions do take a little bit longer, so we'll give our participants a couple extra seconds to get their answer in. All right, we'll go ahead and stop that poll and display the results. All right, and again, we can tap on the image to score it, and I can make it larger here if I need to. And then we can go ahead and draw our answer box around the correct answer, making sure to kind of encompass all those correct responses, and then hit save. Let me minimize that. So again, this was just one example of how the Achieve content is really flexible, and you don't just have to assign it to your students to complete on their own. You can really turn any item into an iClicker activity. So we're going to close out of that student preview and go back to our course content. The next item I want to look at is our instructor activity guide. And again, as a reminder, this item is hidden from student view, so they're not going to see this when they're logged into their Achieve course. But it is here for you to use if you wanted to implement an activity into your class time. So with the instructor activity guides, there's at least one per chapter in most of our Achieve courses for math and statistics. The topics are timely and relevant and interesting to students. As you can see here, this activity is asking students to explore COVID-19 data and to build on what they've learned in chapters 1 and 2. So the guide provides a step-by-step guide for preparing for and implementing the activity. It goes, like I said, step by step and includes everything you need to do so. So on the right-hand side, we have all of the resources for this activity. We have oops, I scrolled a little too far, but we have our data set here. We have some worksheets that you can share with students, either, in person or just share through Achieve, and they can print those out on their own or use on their device. And then we have our presentation slides for the activity. In addition to that, there's a shortcut here for our just our chapter level clicker questions that are formatted in PowerPoint. Natalie mentioned these earlier. So we have, all of our titles have a set of clicker questions in PowerPoint that you can easily just download and pick and choose which questions you want to incorporate into your class. So we're not going to go through this whole activity, but there's one thing that I want to show you just kind of as an alternate way that iClicker can help you. So with this activity, in the introductory part, students are asked to choose a date to explore the COVID-19 data on that date and see how it's changed in the weeks following Memorial Day 2020. So there's lots of ways that you could do this in class, of course, right? You could just ask students to pick, but you may want to balance out your groups. So what you can do is use the multiple choice question type. And I'm going to hit play on that. So I'm just going to have everybody select one of those dates. But rather than waiting until you've closed the polling to show the results, you can actually display those results so that students can see what everyone else is selecting in real time, and they can kind of balance out or self-group. So like I said, that's just another quick way that you can utilize iClicker to just be really helpful and work to your advantage in your class. So I'll stop that poll and close those results. All right, let's go back to our Achieve course. And I'll go back to my course content page one more time. Finally, I just want to talk about this post-class assessment that we have created as part of the course template. There are a couple of things that make our assessment engine different and more effective for student learning. So this view here is the instructor editor screen. Again, I'm going to bypass that one more time and go into the student preview. And we're just going to look at question number 1 here. Up at the top, I can change the view. So one of the things that I do want to mention is our assessment engine is HTML5 based, so it's mobile friendly and meets accessibility standards. And this viewing options allow students to adjust that view to whatever works best for the device that they're using. Okay. So here within the assessment engine, students have access to different tools that can help them through their homework assignments. So we have a link to the ebook, and that goes directly to the section in the chapter where that material is going to be introduced or covered. There are hints available to help students get started if they're confused or not really sure where to begin. And then there are other resources depending on the particular course. For example, in our calculus courses, we have the Desmos graphing calculator link available to students that can be used as a scratch pad. As students go through and work through their questions and work through their exercises, they're going to get detailed feedback that helps to address their errors, their misconceptions. In most cases, that feedback, like I said, it's very detailed, and it will help to address whatever mistake they've made depending on the answer that they've either selected or input. Again, this is a multiple choice style question, but there's numeric entry, there's mathematical expression questions, so there's a really wide variety of question types. And then finally, once they do answer that question correctly, they are able to review a detailed explanation or worked out solution, just depending on the context of the question. The last thing I want to point out with this particular question itself, and this is very specific to statistics, but we have similar tools and resources in our other math courses. Here we have the data set links so that students could easily download the specific data set for this particular exercise in whatever format they need for the software that you're asking them to use or recommending that they use. They can also download the full data sets in the student resources, but this just makes it really convenient for students. And I should also note that many other platforms, only provide those external downloads, whereas we have a web-based solution or web-based statistical software available to students as well. So if they don't have access to another software, or they're not familiar with other softwares, they can click that link for Crunchit. That's our own web-based statistical software. It loads the software as well as the data set. They can use the drop-down menus here to perform whatever test or function is appropriate. And we have a variety of tools to support students with the use of the statistical software, including video tech manuals and different resources to help them get familiar with that. So that you can spend your time teaching the concepts and not necessarily, teaching them how to use the software itself. So I'm going to close out of that student preview. That kicks us back to the instructor view here. And again, just like everything that we've talked about in Achieve, the assessments are really flexible, they're customizable, and they're really designed with student learning in mind. So I know I've kind of run through a lot really quickly. If you'd like to learn more about Achieve, for the particular course that you are teaching, we do offer personalized demos and training sessions. So we really, as Natalie talked about with iClicker, we want to, provide that personalized support so that you feel comfortable incorporating the platform into your course. So with that, I will turn it back over to Natalie. Thank you all.
Thank you, Carrie. That was awesome. We are at that point of our time together where we get to have a little Q&A. And Lindsay, what have we got today?
Yeah, we've gotten a couple questions in so far, but please do feel free to add your questions to the questions panel and go to webinar. It's not too late to ask more questions. So first question is, how do I know for sure if iClicker is included with my Achieve course?
Okay, this is a really easy one. This is great. Log into your Achieve course, and then just go on over to your gradebook. Click that gradebook tab, and then you're going to see a button right here that says iClicker. If you don't see that button, it means it's not included. iClicker is not included generally in our iClicker Essentials courses, which I don't believe we have any of those for math and stats yet. Is that right, Carrie?
We have Achieve Essentials for statistics, but not yet for calculus or other math courses.
Yeah.
But potentially in the future.
Okay, so the only case where you wouldn't see this button is if you were teaching using Achieve Essentials for statistics. So just again, log into Achieve, click on the gradebook icon, and then you will see an iClicker button. Clicking that button will walk you through the process of setting up iClicker in your Achieve course. And it's very important to do it that way in order to make sure that your iClicker grades show up in your Achieve gradebook, and also to make sure that the iClicker use is included for your students.
Great, thanks Natalie and Carrie. And since iClicker is included in most of those Achieve courses for students, do students have to enter an access code in order to take advantage of that?
No, as long as you've set it up through Achieve, they should not be asked at any time for an access code or for any kind of payment.
All right, perfect. We've got a question about Canvas. This school uses Canvas extensively, so can iClicker be integrated with Canvas or other learning management systems?
iClicker can, on its own, be incorporated into many different learning management systems. If you're using Achieve, the way that it goes is iClicker incorporates with Achieve, and then Achieve incorporates with your Canvas gradebook, and Achieve incorporates with Canvas very easily as well.
Yep, we have different options, so you can always set up the integration through Achieve, as Natalie mentioned, or also use your Achieve integrated with Canvas, and then iClicker separately integrated with Canvas, depending on how you want your gradebook set up. What is the best link that people should go to if they want to book an iClicker or Achieve training?
Yes. I had
Really
that
fun.
link at the ready, and then I realized I can't copy and paste it right now. So, do you have that link, Abnett?
I'm just pulling it up.
Great.
The link is a little bit lengthy. If you go to macmillanlearning.com and click on the menu icon at the top, the three bars, and then it's under digital, and then it's under training and demos. And then let me see if I put this in the chat if folks can hopefully see this too.
Yes, and we'll send that link with our
Yeah,
follow-up, right?
exactly.
I'm sorry we didn't just have that link ready to go. Um,
That's okay. Let's see what else. If a student gets a subscription to iClicker included with the Achieve course, could they use that subscription to iClicker in other courses too?
That's a great question. The Achieve connection is only going to cover their iClicker activity in that specific iClicker course. It's not an all-you-can-eat sort of affair.
Yeah, exactly. Um, okay, I've already set up my iClicker course. Is it too late to connect it to Achieve?
It shouldn't be too late. You just
No.
need to go through that syncing process again that I showed through the iClicker Achieve gradebook, and you should be able to then bring the iClicker course you've already created into your course. If you have problems with that for some reason, you would just need to contact us and we could help with that.
Yep. And so if someone didn't have iClicker included with their Achieve course, what would be the regular pricing options for iClicker?
For the regular pricing, if the student was to purchase it through the app, through the iTunes Store or Google Play, it's $15.99 for 6 months.
Exactly. And if you are using one of those other Macmillan Learning products, like even including Achieve Essentials, that doesn't include iClicker, you can also talk to your salesperson about bundling
Right.
iClicker for an additional $5, I believe it is.
Yeah.
All right. Is there a way for an instructor to kind of run practice iClicker sessions with themselves?
Yes, what's great is iClicker is always free for instructors to use, and it's always free to set up a course. So what a lot of instructors do is they set up a course, they call it a test course, and then as the instructor, you can just log in as a student using the same username and password that you use as an instructor, and you can play student in your own course. And so a lot of instructors just make a test course, they play with it as both instructor and student at the same time. And then when they're comfortable and finished, they just delete the test course and then their students never see it.
Right. All right. I think that's all the questions we've gotten in.
Awesome.
So I just want to thank everyone again for joining us today. And once again, we'll be following up with an email with the recording, the slides, the link for the training and demo page. If you want to sign up with the training with Carrie for Achieve or with me or Natalie for iClicker, you can definitely do that. We offer trainings every day of the week. And we hope that you enjoy using Achieve and iClicker in your courses this year.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.